Darkness rarely enters the room wearing a terrifying face. Most of the time it walks in smiling. Calm voice, warm eyes, perfect manners. That is what makes hidden evil so dangerous. The human mind naturally searches for threats that look obvious. Angry people, violent people, loud people. But history, psychology, and real life repeatedly reveal a far more disturbing truth. Some of the most emotionally destructive individuals appear intelligent, charming, helpful, and deeply trustworthy in the beginning. They know how to blend in. They know how to earn sympathy. They know how to study emotions with frightening precision. And by the time people finally recognize their true nature, emotional damage has already been done. What makes this even darker is the fact that many toxic and manipulative behaviors are so subtle that most people completely miss them. Certain individuals slowly confuse others emotionally, create invisible psychological pressure, manipulate trust, and drain people mentally without ever raising suspicion around them. Modern psychology has even shown that traits connected to manipulation, lack of empathy, emotional control, and hidden cruelty often exist behind socially attractive personalities. In many cases, dangerous people are not emotionally explosive at all. They are controlled, patient, calculated. That calmness can become their greatest weapon. Some quietly enjoy creating insecurity in others. Some secretly feel powerful when they emotionally weaken people around them. Others become experts at pretending to care while hiding completely selfish intentions underneath. And the truly disturbing part is that many victims never realize what is happening until years later, because hidden evil rarely attacks directly. It slowly enters through trust, attention, emotional connection, and psychological influence. In this video, you will learn 5 chilling behaviors that often reveal hidden evil hiding beneath the surface. These are behaviors connected to manipulation psychology, emotional deception, silent cruelty, and the darker side of human behavior that most people ignore until it becomes personal. Some of these signs are so subtle that once you notice them, you will begin seeing certain people very differently. One behavior reveals how manipulative individuals create emotional confusion on purpose. Another exposes why fake empathy can sometimes be more dangerous than open hatred. And one of the final signs may completely change how you judge apologies, kindness, and emotional intelligence forever. This video is not about creating fear. It is about awareness, because understanding human behavior can protect you from emotional damage that many people never recover from. The ability to recognize hidden patterns can save you from manipulation, betrayal, psychological exhaustion, and toxic relationships disguised as normal connection. Stay until the end because the final behavior is often the clearest sign of hidden evil, yet most people ignore it completely until it is too late. And once you fully understand these behaviors, you may start connecting patterns you never noticed before. Welcome to the channel. If you enjoy deep psychological videos about human behavior, manipulation, emotional intelligence, and the hidden side of people, subscribe now and become part of a community that looks beneath the surface instead of blindly trusting appearances. The first chilling behavior is emotional confusion, not ordinary misunderstanding, not normal human inconsistency. This is a deliberate pattern where a person slowly destabilizes the emotions of others while pretending nothing is wrong. At first, it feels subtle, small changes in attitude, mixed signals that never fully make sense. Warm behavior one day, cold distance the next, deep attention followed by sudden silence, kindness suddenly replaced with irritation for no clear reason. And the frightening part is that many manipulative people enjoy watching the emotional reaction this creates. Confused people start overthinking, they start questioning themselves, they replay conversations in their head, they search for hidden meanings behind every small interaction. That mental exhaustion slowly weakens emotional clarity. Psychology has shown that uncertainty increases emotional dependency because the human brain naturally craves resolution. When a person constantly alternates between emotional reward and emotional withdrawal, it creates psychological instability. This pattern is sometimes compared to intermittent reinforcement, the same mechanism connected to addictive behavioral cycles. The unpredictability itself becomes emotionally consuming. Healthy people communicate clearly because clarity creates trust. Manipulative individuals often create confusion because confusion creates control. A mentally exhausted person becomes easier to influence, easier to guilt, easier to emotionally dominate. Some manipulative people intentionally avoid giving direct answers because uncertainty keeps others emotionally trapped. They know confusion keeps attention locked onto them. One moment they make someone feel deeply valued. The next moment they create emotional distance without explanation. Then when the other person reacts emotionally, they act innocent or accuse them of overthinking. Slowly, the victim begins doubting their own emotional instincts. That self-doubt becomes the real weapon. Some people secretly enjoy watching others emotionally struggle for their approval. That is what makes this behavior so disturbing. It is not always accidental immaturity. Sometimes it is emotional manipulation disguised as complexity. And many dangerous people become extremely skilled at hiding this pattern behind charm, intelligence, humor, or emotional depth. They create emotional fog while pretending to be misunderstood themselves. Over time, their target becomes emotionally drained, trying to maintain stability inside an intentionally unstable dynamic. Even worse, manipulative individuals often position themselves as the victim after creating the chaos themselves. They hurt others emotionally, then complain about being misunderstood. They create distance, then blame others for reacting emotionally to that distance. They provoke insecurity, then criticize people for becoming insecure. This creates a psychological loop where the victim keeps chasing emotional clarity that never fully arrives. And hidden inside that confusion is often a quiet form of emotional control. Truly healthy relationships do not constantly force people into emotional survival mode. Real emotional safety does not depend on unpredictable affection. People with honest intentions do not enjoy watching others mentally unravel, but manipulative individuals sometimes feel powerful when they control another person's emotional state. The ability to create anxiety, insecurity, obsession, or self-doubt can become psychologically rewarding to them because it confirms influence. That is why some toxic people become strangely calm while others emotionally suffer around them. The suffering itself feeds their sense of control. And the darker reality is that many victims do not recognize this behavior immediately because emotional confusion rarely begins aggressively. It begins gradually, slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. That is what makes it dangerous. Because by the time the pattern becomes obvious, emotional damage has already started forming underneath the surface. And that is only the beginning. Some of the most dangerous individuals do not manipulate emotions through confusion alone. They manipulate through imitation, through performance, through carefully constructed emotional intelligence that looks almost identical to genuine empathy. This leads to the second chilling behavior. They fake empathy perfectly. Hidden evil often hides behind emotional intelligence, because emotional awareness can be used for manipulation just as easily as it can be used for compassion. Some people learn emotions without truly feeling them. They study reactions. They study pain. They study insecurity. They learn exactly which words create trust and emotional attachment. And because they understand emotions intellectually, they become extremely convincing. They know how to sound caring. They know how to mirror vulnerability. They know how to appear deeply understanding during emotional conversations. At first, they often seem emotionally safer than everyone else. They listen carefully, they remember personal details, they say exactly the right words during moments of weakness. This creates a powerful emotional bond very quickly because most people associate emotional understanding with emotional goodness, but the two are not always connected. Emotional intelligence without conscience can become manipulation. Some people use empathy as a strategy instead of a feeling. That is why many manipulative individuals appear highly compassionate in the beginning of relationships, friendships, workplaces, or social environments. They mirror emotions to gain trust. If someone feels insecure, they become comforting. If someone feels lonely, they become emotionally available. If someone feels misunderstood, they position themselves as the only person who truly understands them. This emotional mirroring creates rapid attachment because people naturally trust those who emotionally reflect them. But eventually the pattern changes. Their compassion slowly becomes conditional. Their warmth exists only while it benefits them emotionally, socially, financially, or psychologically. The moment someone stops feeding their ego, giving attention, offering loyalty, or providing usefulness, the empathy starts disappearing. Suddenly, the same person who once appeared deeply understanding becomes emotionally cold, dismissive, impatient, or even cruel. This shift shocks people because the emotional contrast feels impossible to understand. Victims often spend months trying to recover the caring version of the person they first met, but sometimes that version was carefully constructed from the beginning. One of the most disturbing realities about manipulative personalities is that they often understand emotions extremely well. In fact, some dangerous individuals are better at reading emotional vulnerability than genuinely kind people. They notice insecurities quickly. They detect loneliness quickly. They identify emotional wounds quickly. Then they adapt themselves to fit exactly what the other person emotionally needs. This is why many victims later describe manipulative people as feeling perfect in the beginning. The connection felt unusually intense because it was psychologically engineered through emotional mirroring. Some individuals study emotions almost like actors studying roles. They observe facial expressions, tone changes, emotional reactions, weak points. And because they understand emotional behavior so deeply, they become very skilled at hiding their real intentions underneath warmth and emotional sensitivity. The scariest manipulators are not emotionally blind, they are emotionally strategic. They know exactly when to comfort, when to withdraw, when to flatter, when to apologize, and when to appear vulnerable themselves. Even fake vulnerability can become a manipulation tactic because it creates sympathy and emotional trust. Some people reveal painful stories about themselves not because they seek genuine connection, but because vulnerability makes others emotionally lower their guard. Once trust is established, emotional control becomes easier. This is why many manipulative individuals initially appear deeply self-aware or emotionally mature. They understand the language of healing, trauma, kindness, and emotional connection, but eventually their behavior exposes the truth underneath the performance. Genuine empathy remains consistent even when there is no personal benefit. Fake empathy disappears when control weakens. Real compassion does not suddenly turn cruel when attention shifts elsewhere. Manipulative empathy often operates like a transaction hidden behind emotional performance. The frightening part is that many people never suspect emotionally intelligent individuals because society often associates charm and emotional awareness with goodness automatically, but emotional intelligence is simply a tool. In the wrong hands, it becomes psychological weaponry. Some people comfort others only to gain emotional access. Some listen carefully only to gather emotional information that can later be used for manipulation. Some create emotional intimacy only to increase dependency. And once their target becomes emotionally attached, the real personality slowly starts emerging underneath the mask. And eventually, the mask starts slipping. Small cracks begin appearing in their behavior. Tiny moments of unnecessary cruelty, subtle enjoyment of emotional pain, quiet humiliation disguised as humor. This leads directly into the third chilling behavior. They enjoy small acts of cruelty. Evil rarely begins with extreme behavior. Most dangerous personalities do not reveal themselves immediately through dramatic violence or obvious hatred. Instead, hidden darkness often appears through small casual acts that many people ignore. Tiny moments where someone quietly enjoys causing discomfort. Small humiliations disguised as jokes. Passive-aggressive comments delivered with a smile. Subtle emotional punishment when they feel challenged or ignored. These behaviors may seem minor individually, but together they reveal something deeply disturbing underneath the surface. Healthy people naturally avoid causing unnecessary emotional pain because empathy creates internal discomfort when others suffer. But some individuals experience the opposite reaction. They enjoy the emotional effect they have on others. That enjoyment may appear through mockery, embarrassment, intimidation, exclusion, or psychological games. One of the clearest signs appears in how a person responds to weakness. Kind people protect vulnerability. Manipulative people often exploit it. Some secretly enjoy embarrassing others publicly because humiliation creates power imbalance. Others mock insecurity because making someone feel smaller temporarily boosts their own ego. This behavior can become especially disturbing because it often hides behind humor. Cruel individuals frequently disguise emotional attacks as jokes, so they can avoid accountability afterward. If someone reacts emotionally, they accuse them of being too sensitive. This allows them to hurt others while maintaining plausible innocence. Passive-aggressive cruelty becomes another common pattern. Instead of direct conflict, they use sarcasm, silent treatment, emotional withdrawal, subtle insults, or indirect punishment. This creates psychological discomfort without obvious evidence of abuse. Over time, the target feels emotionally drained but struggles to explain exactly why. Some manipulative individuals intentionally create embarrassment in social situations because public discomfort gives them a feeling of superiority. Others quietly sabotage confidence through repeated subtle criticism disguised as honesty. They may constantly point out flaws, minimize achievements, or emotionally invalidate people during vulnerable moments. None of these actions appear extreme alone, but together they reveal a personality comfortable with causing pain casually. And that comfort itself becomes disturbing. Psychology often shows that small acts reveal deeper character traits because they occur when people feel safe enough to reveal their natural impulses. Large public behavior can be controlled. Small private behavior often exposes the truth. People reveal themselves most clearly through the pain they casually cause. The most chilling part is how emotionally normal these individuals can appear during everyday life. Some are socially respected. Some are charming. Some appear intelligent and composed. But underneath that image exists a hidden enjoyment of emotional dominance. They feel powerful when others feel insecure. They feel entertained by discomfort they create. Some even test emotional boundaries slowly to measure how much cruelty they can get away with before consequences appear. This gradual escalation becomes extremely dangerous because victims normalize the behavior over time. What first felt shocking slowly becomes expected. That is how emotional abuse quietly develops, not through sudden explosions but through repeated smaller moments that slowly destroy emotional safety. Some manipulative individuals even become calmer when others react emotionally because emotional reactions confirm their influence. Watching someone become insecure, anxious, embarrassed, or emotionally wounded gives them psychological satisfaction. And the darker reality is that this behavior often intensifies when combined with social intelligence and charm, because charming cruelty becomes harder for others to detect. Outsiders often see only the charismatic version while victims experience the hidden psychological damage privately. But hidden evil becomes even more dangerous when combined with charm, especially when manipulation expands beyond individuals and starts controlling entire social environments. This leads to the fourth chilling behavior. They turn people against each other. Some manipulative individuals do not create power through direct aggression. They create it through division, through gossip, through emotional triangulation, through quietly controlling trust between people around them. This behavior becomes especially dangerous because it allows them to manipulate entire groups while appearing innocent themselves. One of the most common tactics is selective information. They tell different people different stories. They slightly alter conversations. They create subtle misunderstandings between friends, partners, co-workers, or family members. Then they step back and watch the emotional fallout from the center. This allows them to maintain influence because divided people become easier to control. People who distrust each other cannot unite against manipulation. Gossip often becomes their primary weapon because rumors create emotional instability without requiring direct confrontation. They spread insecurity carefully, sometimes indirectly. Sometimes through fake concern disguised as caring conversation. They may say harmful things while pretending to protect someone. They may compare people secretly to create jealousy and competition. They may reveal private information strategically to weaken trust between others. The frightening part is how calm they remain, while relationships slowly collapse around them. Some manipulative personalities enjoy controlling social dynamics almost like a game. They observe emotional reactions carefully and adjust their behavior accordingly. If two people become emotionally close, they may create tension between them. If someone gains confidence, they may quietly undermine their reputation. If conflict appears, they position themselves as the supportive peacemaker while secretly fueling the division behind the scenes. Triangulation becomes one of the darkest forms of emotional manipulation because it allows a person to control multiple relationships simultaneously. They create emotional dependence by positioning themselves as the center of communication, validation, or emotional stability. This gives them enormous psychological influence over group dynamics. Some individuals intentionally create rivalries because divided people focus on each other instead of recognizing the manipulator controlling the situation. Others use comparison as emotional poison. They constantly compare people against one another to trigger insecurity and competition. Over time, trust disappears while the manipulative individual gains more emotional control over everyone involved. The emotional damage becomes enormous because victims often start distrusting innocent people instead of recognizing the real source of manipulation. Some manipulators even enjoy observing the emotional chaos they create because it makes them feel powerful and psychologically important. Conflict becomes entertainment. Emotional tension becomes stimulation. The truly disturbing part is how invisible this behavior can remain for years. Many manipulative individuals appear friendly, helpful, or socially intelligent publicly. They rarely appear openly aggressive because indirect control protects their image. Instead of openly attacking others, they manipulate perceptions quietly behind conversations, rumors, emotional framing, and selective honesty. This makes them extremely difficult to expose because every individual sees only part of the manipulation. Meanwhile, the manipulator understands the full psychological picture. They create conflict, then quietly watch from the center. And the final behavior may be the darkest of all because it reveals the complete absence of genuine emotional conscience underneath everything else. They feel no real remorse. One of the clearest signs of hidden evil is the inability to experience genuine guilt after causing emotional damage. At first, manipulative individuals may appear apologetic. They may say the right words. They may even cry, explain themselves emotionally, or promise change convincingly. But over time, a disturbing pattern becomes visible. The harmful behavior keeps repeating. Different apology, same damage. Real guilt creates behavioral change because empathy creates internal discomfort after hurting others. Manipulators often experience discomfort only when consequences threaten them personally. That difference changes everything. Some people are not sorry for hurting others. They are only sorry when consequences arrive. This is why fake remorse often feels emotionally confusing. Their words sound convincing, but their behavior never truly changes. They apologize to regain access, rebuild trust, avoid abandonment, protect reputation, or escape accountability. Not because they genuinely feel pain for the suffering they caused. One of the darkest signs appears in emotional detachment after severe harm. Healthy individuals naturally feel emotional weight after deeply hurting someone they care about. Manipulative individuals can sometimes shift emotionally with shocking speed. One moment they cause enormous emotional damage. The next moment they appear calm, unaffected, distracted, or even cheerful. That emotional disconnect becomes deeply unsettling because it reveals how limited their emotional conscience may actually be. Some manipulators become experts at victim playing instead of accountability. Rather than focusing on the pain they caused, they redirect attention toward their own suffering. They blame stress, trauma, misunderstanding, pressure, childhood pain, or the reactions of others. While these factors may influence behavior, they do not erase responsibility. Yet manipulative individuals often use emotional explanations to avoid true accountability. This creates another psychological trap where victims begin comforting the person who harmed them instead of processing their own pain. Over time, this destroys emotional boundaries completely. Another disturbing sign is repetition without growth. Everyone makes mistakes. Healthy people learn from them, but manipulative individuals repeat the same destructive patterns again and again while constantly changing excuses. The surface details shift, but the emotional damage remains identical underneath. Different promises, same behavior, different explanations, same emotional destruction. This cycle often continues because fake remorse can temporarily appear extremely convincing. Some manipulators understand exactly how to trigger sympathy after causing harm. They know when to appear broken, emotional, regretful, or vulnerable. But genuine remorse reveals itself through long-term behavioral consistency, not emotional performance during moments of crisis. That difference becomes critical. Some people master apologies without ever developing accountability, and over time, victims become trapped inside cycles of hope, followed by repeated disappointment. The most chilling part is how normal these individuals can appear to outsiders. Many people only witness the charming version, the social version, the emotionally intelligent version. They never see the emotional destruction happening privately underneath the surface. That hidden contrast is what makes manipulative personalities so psychologically dangerous. because the damage often remains invisible until emotional exhaustion, confusion, anxiety, or trauma has already deeply affected the victim. And many survivors later describe the same terrifying realization. The person they trusted most was also the source of their deepest psychological harm. So no, evil does not always arrive loudly. It does not always look aggressive, dangerous, or easy to recognize. Sometimes it hides behind kindness, behind intelligence, behind good manners and calm behavior. Some of the most emotionally destructive people learn how to appear trustworthy long before anyone notices what they truly are. That is why hidden evil can be so difficult to detect in the beginning. It rarely reveals itself all at once. Instead, it slowly appears through patterns, through emotional confusion, through fake empathy, through quiet cruelty, through manipulation disguised as care, and through the complete absence of genuine remorse after causing pain. The truth is, behavior always exposes reality eventually. No matter how convincing the mask may look at first, repeated actions always reveal what words try to hide. Truly kind people do not enjoy emotional chaos. They do not feel powerful when others suffer. They do not constantly manipulate trust, create insecurity, or emotionally drain the people around them. Healthy people bring clarity, peace, honesty, and emotional safety into the lives of others. Manipulative people bring confusion, tension, fear, and psychological exhaustion. And one of the darkest lessons life teaches is that the most dangerous individuals are often not the loudest ones in the room. They are the calmest, the most charming, the most emotionally convincing, until the damage is already done. If some of these behaviors felt familiar while watching this video, trust that feeling. Human instincts often notice danger long before logic fully understands it. Awareness is not paranoia. Understanding manipulation is one of the strongest forms of self-protection because once you recognize these patterns, it becomes much harder for toxic people to control your emotions, your trust, and your peace of mind. And if you want more deep psychological videos about human behavior, manipulation, emotional intelligence, dark personality traits, and the hidden side of people, subscribe to the channel and become part of this growing community. Like this video if you found it powerful. And share it with someone who needs to understand these behaviors before emotional damage becomes emotional trauma. Because sometimes the people who appear the safest on the surface are the ones hiding the darkest intentions underneath.